And Negar Ghezel Sefloo, I hope I pronounced this right, is a postdoc researcher at the Institute of Public Law and Political Science at University of Graz. She is part of the EC Squared project team, and her work consists mainly of elaborating policy recommendations and communicating findings to policymakers and civil society. And her research interest lies at the intersection of natural sciences and law, with a particular focus on energy communities and how they can accelerate sustainability goals. So Negar, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction and also for inviting me. It's a great pleasure for me to be with all of you here. And yeah, today in the second session of our Community Energy Academy, I will, Yui, can I just ask you if it's possible that you share my, yeah, perfect. I will focus on two main questions. The first one is that why does knowledge matter for setting up and joining the energy communities? And also the second one, that what are the knowledge barriers, or better to say, the challenges for energy citizenship? The next one, please. Yeah, for the first question, that why does knowledge matter for establishing and joining the energy communities, I will give a short introduction on the energy communities and the energy citizenship, and also the regulatory framework. The next one. And yeah, as we know, energy community offers the possibility of sharing the energy, renewable energy, with our neighbors or community with economic benefits. Participation in an energy commune, participation in an energy community is a most pronounced expression of the energy citizenship. The next one. From a legal point of view, the definition of the energy community relies on the two EU directives, Renewable Energy Directive and also Internal Market for Electricity Directive. Renewable Energy Directive and also Citizen Energy Community, both of them are defined under these two directives respectively. Both of them, they are aimed to improve the uptake of the energy communities and also facilitate the integration of the citizen into the energy system as an active participant. Both of them, they have many similarities, but they have also some distinct differences. The barriers or challenges and also actionable recommendations, they have been identified by analyzing these two directives, as well as 4 co-creation workshops which took place in spring 2022 as part of ECS Square project. Yeah, the next one, please. The result of this analysis showed that the transposition of these directives at the member state is complex, depending on many factors, and they are not implemented uniformly by all member states, and each one takes a different approach for implementation. And also, there is a lack of readily available information on energy communities. So it's a necessity for having improvements, not only at the EU level, but at member state level, but also at the EU level. And these are the results from scientific work. So they should be transformed into the simple, shorter, and more easily available and understandable language, which is really important, but we should also consider not to be oversimplifying, and also on the other hand, not to be overcomplicating. The next one, please. Yeah, to answer our question, now I can say that why does knowledge matter? So that's because of the complexity of the legal situation for establishing and running the energy community. So easily available, understandable, and also reliable information for this plays an important role in strengthening the energy communities and also energy citizenship. The next one, please. What we could do as part of the ECS Square project, we choose policy briefs in order to improve the transfer of the result from the scientific work to the society, especially to the policymakers. The next. Yeah, the first policy brief and the second one have been already published. And the third one is somehow on the way and will be published soon. And the second one and the third one especially focus on the also barriers and all challenges or also recommendations at the EU level, the second one, and the third one at the national level. If you are interested, you can easily find them at on the ACS Square project homepage, and just free, if you're interested, just free to download them. The next one. And yeah, now we know how knowledge important is, but what are the knowledge barriers or challenges for energy citizenship? The challenges are including the next one, are including the construction and maintenance of the generation plant, which is time consuming and also costly for people who are interested to install a generation plant. They often do not have the knowledge and the skill to know how to maintain a generation plant. That's why they would need a third party to take over this, and that of course would need additional costs, and that's the challenge for them. The next challenge is too resource intensive for people who want to form an energy communities. They have to undergo the legal proceeding to create a legal form for energy community, and also different administrative proceeding regarding the installations and plans for energy communities, which is also a barrier. The next challenge is obtaining information on energy communities. For people, the interested people for setting up an energy communities, they have to initially obtain the information on energy communities on various specs from various resources, which is time consuming. In case of legal advices, that would be also costly. So that's also a challenge. And we should also consider that too little information is also a problem, but on the other hand, overabundance of the information would also overwhelm the consumers. The next one. And the next challenge is unspecified legal form for energy community and for living appropriate energy community legal form up to member states. So unspecified legal form, as I've already pointed out, the renewable energy community and citizen energy community are defined under the Renewable Energy Directive and Internal Market for Electricity Directive. And both of them, the definition, in the definition, they did not specify any legal form for energy community, and the choice of appropriate energy community legal form is just left up to member states based on the open and voluntary participation, which is then complex, costly, and time-consuming for the citizen, since they are not familiar with the law, legal forms, and also the cost that would be also a challenge for them. And the next one is different rules on collective self-consumption and energy communities, since collective self-consumption is regulated differently than energy communities. So for people who want to join collectively, that would be also a challenge for them, since they do not know if they should be organized under the umbrella of collective self-consumption or energy communities. The last one, but not least, is providing information on grid access and timely access to the grid. We know that the realization of the energy community requires the information on grid access. So energy communities rely on the public grid for connection. And if public grid operators do not provide the information on grid access and timely access to the grid, so the realization, of course, will also be slowed down, and that's also would be also a problem for the citizens. So these are just shortly the knowledge challenges for citizens, and also how important knowledge is for establishing and also joining the energy communities. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer. Yeah.
Thank you, Negar. Thank you for this introduction. It's very interesting to see how the different barriers that we see later on are actually connected to knowledge as well. So for example, when the knowledge is very hard to access, it also requires you a lot of time, financial resources to access the legal support and so on. Yeah, would the audience have any question based on Negar's presentation? So if not yet, you can always write in the chat later on as well. Negar will stay here, and we started from this like framework perspective, especially from European. We do have people who are outside from Europe, so it would be also interesting to see like what kind of legal frameworks exist outside. But when we talk about energy community, often we refer to the ones that are defined in the EU law, but we are aware of that there are different forms of energy communities that exist. That's why we in our community energy academy, our title is community energy and not energy community. So all kinds of forms where people come together to produce and consume energy together matters here. But yeah, we can then actually move to the presentations where we have expert speakers presenting their knowledge tools, their innovative knowledge tools for energy communities and energy citizens. So first, we have Ian Turner from Energy Cities, who describes himself as a Swiss knife, mostly working as a manager of projects that focus on city-led energy and climate communication campaigns or ICT platforms. More recently, his focus has been shifting from peer-to-peer learning on energy community, on community energy, and especially on how municipalities can be involved. He will speak about the EU's Energy Communities Repository and other initiatives that Energy Cities is involved in. Then we have Daniel Berger representing the Energy and Environmental Agency of Lower Austria. Daniel works as a PV coordinator, meaning that he is a central point of contact for all questions relating to photovoltaics in the region. His job is to motivate communities, people, and companies to expand PVs and support them in doing so. So he manages projects for the Lower Austrian Solar Power Plant, PV citizen participation, and then the Information Center for Energy Communities. And he will be speaking about the Austrian Coordination Office for Energy Communities, which is an approach to make energy community information available at the national level. And last but not least, we have our very own Johanna Held, who is a PhD student in social psychology at the University of Graz. She's also part of the EC Square project, and she's involved in the psychological studies of energy citizenship and energy communities. And she will present the upcoming tool, the project that the project has been developing to foster energy citizenship and energy communities. We will first have all their presentations and then the audience questions before we move to a short panel reflection. So we will start with Ian. You can go ahead.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. Already thanks a lot for the invitation. So just quickly, because we have a little bit of extra time, would it be possible for the audience to give me either like a thumbs up who works for a city? Because I have to admit, I adapted my presentation to city people, but let's see if I can see with a thumbs up how many people.
Just like raise your hand.
Yeah,
like
raise your hand
function.
or something, just so we can get how many people work for a city organization. I can't see, but
I actually don't see any. Oh, one. I saw in the registration that we had a few.
Okay,
We have one. They try how many work for an energy community.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's go for who's part of an energy community or setting up an energy community. Yeah. Okay, I see some more hands coming up. Is that how many are you?
I saw 3 in total.
Okay.
So 4.
All
Yeah,
right.
based on the registration, we saw a mix of many. But,
okay, great. So that was just to get an idea. So just to get into it. I'm Ian, I work for Energy Cities. So we're a very similar network to ICLI, and our offices are actually not that far apart. I'm based in Besançon and they're based in Freiburg. So the Couteau Suisse is, I'm based in not too far away from the Swiss border. So just quickly, I'm going to give an overview of Energy Cities, and then I'll explain to you why I asked you the question about the municipalities, because it's really my presentation's focused on cities, but there's a lot of information as well for energy communities out there. So mission of Energy Cities is a desire to strengthen role and skills of local governments. So getting onto the keynote speech about providing access to information. Right, next one. So I'll go through this very quickly. So our members, you'll see our membership is quite strongly based in France because that's where we started, but also quite nice in Central Eastern Europe. And later on, we'll see that when it comes to energy communities, there's certain countries that are, let's say, hotspots where there's lots happening, and there are other countries where there's a lot less activity. So I did see someone from Estonia, which is really good because that's one of the countries where there's a little bit less activities. Next one. So recently, Energy Cities, we have been focusing on different hubs, and you'll see that we have one hub that is fully focused on community-led energy for massive renewable production. So I work quite a lot on that bit, which means that in the last 3 years I've been working on this, there's been an increasing interest from cities around the subject of energy communities. Let's say 5-6 years ago, this wouldn't have really even been a subject. Now it's really a hot topic, lots of new opportunities to work on these subjects. So moving on. Within each of the hubs, we have 4 activities. We have what's EU up, so this is kind of the policy aspect. Then we have the mayors, so we need leadership. You'll see quite a lot when it comes to involving cities. You really need to have mayors involved. And then we have the training transition leaders program, where we have training, coaching, a little bit like what's been done here within the academy. And then the marketplace. The marketplace is where different city members can interact to work together on project proposals or working together. So that's it. Just to say, within the community-led hub, we recently initiated an espresso training. The idea was that because city people don't have much time, we try to set up an online training, which shouldn't take them more than 8 hours to accomplish this. So we've now currently got about 70 city people working on an online course, and they should be finishing at the beginning of July. So just to explain that, yeah, this is an activity that we're focusing for city representatives. Next one. So I was invited, well, actually, my colleague Anna Francis was invited. She's unfortunately on holiday in the UK at the moment. So Energy Cities is part of the consortium that manages the Energy Community Repository, which has got a great source of information, mostly for energy communities and also a bit for the cities. If you move on to the next slide, you'll see that it's down on the left there, it's ResCop EU that are leading this. We, along with it, we've got Federin, which is a federation of energy agencies, with the France School of Regulation and Acarion, who are doing the communication. But you can see that there's 2 initiatives. There's the urban and then there's the rural aspect. So that's there's 2 parallel projects going on right at the moment. Next slide. So there's 3 aspects where support is being provided by the repository. So there's policy analysis, so similar kind of information that you'll get from the EC2, mapping and impact assessment, so a map of where all the existing energy communities are, and then the technical assistance bit, which I'll go into later. If you look at the good practice and resources, this is a really nice one. I actually put up one that just came up recently now. Literally, it came out in the last 2 weeks. Digital Solutions for Energy Communities, a short guidebook by the Energy Communities Repository. So this is really a nice resource. So that's sharing good practices. I think there's a couple of other points that are going to come out if we click. Yeah. So existing resources, capacity building materials, the new guidance materials is this. The short guidebook is the latest one that's come out. And policy analysis database, which is one of the first aspects that we were talking about. So next slide, please. On the resources, it gives an overview of existing EU projects and initiatives. Also, one-stop shops. So this is where often this is done at a national level or potentially at a regional level. And the toolbox where you'll be able to find different tools, calculators, and this is really is a great resource for anyone who's moving in to trying to assess how much energy is available or what are the options to, let's say, implement PV. Next slide, please. So on the technical assistance, quick overview of what's happening. So far, 25 communities are receiving direct technical support. There are 45 communities, so broader with online twinning, peer learning, and ultimately there's going to be 80 communities receiving support via national capacity building workshops, and then 6 EU-wide capacity building webinars, and I'll be telling you that because some of them are coming up quite soon. So if you look at the applications for the technical assistance, you notice that it was kind of done on purpose. Initially, when the project was set up to focus on Central Eastern Europe or on the countries where community energy is less developed, you'll see a lot of applications from Spain, which unfortunately is a non-focus country. So, and I even saw here there's still huge interest in the subject in Spain, and there's quite a lot of participants from Spain. And then other than that, Italy also quite a lot of interest. And the really sad thing is you can see that there were no applications from Estonia, Lithuania, Slovakia, and Slovenia. When we move on to discussions, this is really something to note. Next slide, please. So the technical assistant applicants, here's some overview of what's been done. So in the Czech Republic, there's been a PV and heat pump project. In Greece, a hydro project. In Portugal, a climate action center, which has been at the source of creating an energy community. And in Germany, they've been working on helping selecting sites for solar energy. Next slide, please. And then finally, Cyprus as a thing. So for the top 5 priorities, which is very interesting, is setting up a legal structure and related administration. So going back to the presentation from Negar, which is linked to policy, governance and energy community related administration, community investment campaigns, the money aspect, an initial financing concept, of course, super complicated for some energy communities, and then finding inspiring examples. And that's where hopefully today you will be getting more examples of that. So moving on. So the EU webinars, there's one taking place on the 13th of June. So please go on to the website, which will be available to join up to that. And then you'll see a lot of other webinars are going to be set up in the lead up to the end of this year. So there we go. Next slide. focused capacity building workshops are going to be taking place in specific countries. So if any of you are based in one of these countries, please, same thing, watch the space on the repository to see when that is taking place so that you can participate. And of course, it's going to be taking place in the national language, which of course is another barrier. Us talking in English when the majority of people in Europe do not speak English is a barrier. Moving on next. Right, I'm going to provide an overview. So as Energy Cities, as I said, within our hub, we work on a series of different projects like EC2, and a lot of these projects we work together. A lot of them are very complementary, and some of them provide different tools. So Life Loop, if you move on to the next slide, is an interesting project where there's specifically going to be a tool that will be very useful for everyone. It's called the matchmaking tool. It's currently under development. One of the major issues that we've discovered with energy communities, especially those who are starting out with PV, is it's quite difficult to find sites that are good to set up the PV. And the idea is to set up linkages between municipalities who potentially will have roofs and energy communities who are looking for roofs to install projects on. So that's a really nice one. And then, of course, there's also capacity building and a lot of interesting aspects coming out from the toolbox and another training event there. So that's a really nice one, Life Loop. It's been going on for just about 9 months. So watch the space for anyone who's working on those aspects. Next slide. So of course, energy communities are often criticized for saying that they just work with older male engineers, and unfortunately that is often the case. So there's a lot of focused work on energy poverty aspects, and a lot of projects focusing on that. Not all of them are based on energy communities. Some of them can just be municipal led. They can be done in municipal companies. But let's face it, that if you want to do something that is involving the citizens, community energy projects are a great way of doing that. So there's the project which is Power Up, which is focusing on energy poverty. Next slide. And what is really nice about this project is that we're working in different countries, also in Macedonia, so in the Balkan zone, and Czech Republic. So in areas where there are less community energy projects. And so a lot of things to be learning from this aspect by living labs and all the experience of these 6 pilots. So there it is. There's a link also to the website there. That should be an EU. I saw a mistake. Okay. And we're getting on to the end of my presentation. This is a project that I work on, and I think has got some really nice tools and guides. Let's say let's call it more guides. So for the city people, the Community Energy Municipal Guide has just been produced at the end of last year. It really has a bunch of practical aspects of what you can do if you are a city, because let's face it, quite often a lot of cities don't really know what they can do. For the energy communities out there, your major issue is financing. So there's really a great financing guide. And what is a new thing that we set up is a guide that you can take to banks, to explain to banks that actually, as an energy community, well, you are reliable. There's lots of examples of other energy communities that have set up really good projects, because quite often it's very difficult to get money from banks because there's no trust when it comes to citizen organizations. Another really great option, more particularly for the energy communities, which should be coming up soon, is a methodological guide. This is really great. This is like for your starting energy community. It really explains what you need to do, how to set up your first meeting, and all the different steps that you need to take in order for you to become a mature energy community. And then policy briefings are coming out, and in a monitoring tool that's more, let's say, a more academic approach to keeping a track of how you're doing. All right, so that's an interesting project, and let's say these guides all have come out in the last 2-3 months, so definitely worth taking a look at. So I'm doing the thank you for the Energy Communities repository. If anyone has any questions on that, that's info@ecrepository.eu, and my contact details on the first slide at the top. But you'll definitely be able to share that with everyone. And if anyone has questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thanks.
Thank you, Ian, for a very comprehensive presentation, and also, yes, for the audience as well. We will share the slides afterwards, so no worries about taking everything down. If you want to, Ian, you can also link some of the key points that you mentioned there, like the key links there as well. So our academy aims to be a very low threshold for people to enter, and then the next step, if you want to take an action, if you want to start the energy community or so on, these like the guides provided by Energy Communities Repository, the webinars, and then other guides that Ian presented will help you to move forward. Since we still have time, I could take one question for Ian. If anyone in the audience has a question, you can just raise your hand or open your mic. If not, we can take the questions then after the rest of the presentations, or then you can write in the chat. But we can then move on to Daniel from the Energy and Environment Agency of Lower Austria. Let me pull up your slides. Here you go. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, and greetings from Lower Austria. I'm Daniel Berger from the Energy and Environment Agency of Lower Austria. So we basically provide information to a lot of topics concerning energy and environment for Lower Austrian citizens and especially communities. So of course, energy communities are also a big part of our work. And today I've like a little bit like two hats on, because on the one side I'm talking about maybe a little bit what is going on in Lower Austria, but also about the coordination platform for energy communities in Austria, so where we are part of as an agency. So next slide, please. I don't want to go into detail with this one, but you can see here a brief overview how energy communities in Austria work. So basically we have 4 different kinds of energy communities, which are based on the electricity grid levels. So as you can see, this is quite complex. Just to give you a feeling for how much information we had to get to the people to make this happen, to make energy communities happening in Austria. This is only the technical part, and there is a lot of more complex things you have to establish on an operational part. So, but I don't want to go in detail, just for you to know that it is not a very easy topic for us. And we started basically, next slide. Thank you. We basically started at 0. So there was no information at all when we started our National Coordination Office in 2021. There was no market for consultants or anything like that. and there was especially no best practice. So basically, nobody had an idea how this legal framework is going to get into life. So we really started with the basics. So, and one of the first really innovative steps of the Austrian government was to form the National Coordination Office for Energy Communities. So, and the main part was to have one website, one single point of contact where everybody in Austria can have legally secure information. And this is very important because at the beginning, everybody was interpreting the legal framework a little bit different. So we had the part to make sure what is really a valid information. And of course, it was a lot of work to remove barriers to the adoption. So as you already saw, the distribution system operators have a big part in energy communities in Austria. So, and they were not really motivated to get energy communities into life. So we had to really push them to make this happen. And next slide, please. And it was quite clear from the beginning that one coordinating office for whole Austria is not the whole solution, because for everybody that knows Austria, we are really a federal state. So the federal states have a lot of power. They have agencies for like the Energy Agency Law Austria that make the consulting for the communities and for the people. So what was really not a common step was that there was a working platform established where all 9 federal states together and the Austrian coordination office work together on the topic. And next slide, please. And this was really crucial, because otherwise it would not have been possible to get all the information and all the tools into place that have to be established in a really short time to make energy communities possible. So what is the coordinating, the National Coordinating Office on a national level? We have in the 9 federal states on a federal level. So if an energy community needs support in a federal state, they have also one contact point where they know that there is a legally binding information, and the big advantage of this big working platform is that all the federal states can learn from each other. So, and everybody knows what the other state knows, if you put it simple. So also this is important because not all the states have the same dynamic when it comes to energy communities. So some states still only have a few of them. Other states, a little bit of advertisement for Lower Austria, maybe we're one of the states that has the most energy communities. So we can also get the knowledge that we gain in Lower Austria to the other parts of Austria, and this is really crucial. And also the workload, as I said, was really high. So we had to work together to get all the things done. Next slide, please. And the goals of the platform until 2024 is to establish 1,000 energy communities in Austria with 100,000 members. And this is more, and the members are more the hard part, because there is a lot of energy communities now coming up that only have a few members because they want to try this new system and they want to grow like in a few years or something like this. So we really try to get energy communities to form bigger and more complex energy communities, so that this is really also an accessible model for a lot of people. And besides that, it is also important for us to get innovation into the model. So this is also a big goal, because at the moment, most of the energy communities are quite basic models. So they have solar power plants and they share the energy of the solar power plants, but not really with innovative, I don't know, maybe tariffs that tackle energy poverty or something like this, or integrate storages. So this is something we want to also push to get to the next level when it comes to energy communities. Yeah, and I think the most of this is quite clear. I already said it was really important to make this an Austrian-wide system. And it is really important that every federal state has the same knowledge and also tells energy communities the same information, so that this is so that there is no issues when it comes to different opinions on some legal things or something like this. So next slide, please. We already worked a lot and established a lot of information and tools for energy communities. A lot of this maybe sounds not really innovative for you, but as I said, we started at zero and we had to do the basics first. So what was really important is to have model contracts, because in Austria, you have to form a legal entity to form an energy community. So we had to make sure that especially small and basic energy communities can form without needing legal consulting, because this is normally quite expensive, and then the model would have not been able to spread this wide as we see it at the moment. So this was one of our first tasks. And then, of course, we have a lot of information material of all kinds. And what is really one of our most important tools are the FAQs at the national website. My PR colleagues sometimes call them seldomly asked questions, because it's that much questions and so many detailed questions, because we put everything up there that that comes up in projects, and we want to have it available for all Austria. So there is a lot of detailed questions to help everybody not to start at zero when they want to establish an energy community. What is also really important is the list of service providers, because we had a lot of companies that tried to make money basically with energy communities, but that don't really have the knowledge to do so. So there was also in terms of prices, there was a lot going on. So we had really cheap providers, really expensive providers, and nobody really had an idea what is a fair price. So we put up a list of service providers that had to present pilot projects to get on the list, and they needed to sign a code of conduct to be on our list. So basically, it's a little bit of quality control when it comes to the market, which is really important. And then, of course, we wanted to have a network of energy communities and different stakeholders that are concerned with energy communities. So we have a lot of events on a regional and national level to just get the information everywhere and to everybody. And at the moment, there is really a community building when it comes to energy communities, where they help each other and really get in contact a lot. So this was quite fruitful. Yes, and just to mention it, all this is for free. So all this is, as you saw maybe on the first slides, the Ministry for climate change is sponsoring all, or is financing all these things, and nobody has to pay for information or anything like this. Yeah, next slide, please. So what we're working now at the moment is to make it easier to form small energy communities by providing an online guide, which will be online maybe in 1 or 2 months. So over the summer we will finish it. So if you really want to establish a really small energy community with maybe 4 or 5 members, then you can go through this guide and you get all the information you need at one point, and you get and it's really easy to understand, so that everybody can do it without a lot of further consulting. Of course, there is a lot of new information coming up, so we always update this. The website will be set up new, etc. And what I already said is we try to really find more technical and social innovative energy communities and get them to establish new ways of thinking energy communities, basically. So this is also a big part of our work at the moment, and of course we also try to integrate the research projects. Next slide, please. Where are we at the moment when it comes to energy communities in Austria? The model is now available for about 3 years. And still a lot of people find it complex. So our work is not done. We will try to make it easier and easier to form energy communities. Still, this is a common at especially at municipalities, that it is a still complex system. And what we see, I already said that. We have a lot of energy communities. We'll see on the next slide. We have a lot of communities already in Austria, but a lot of them are really small, maybe 5 to 10 members that exchange energy. And there is a few that have maybe 100. Maybe there are 20 energy communities in Austria that have over 100 members. So this is one thing we want to push, that there are more big energy communities established. And also, what is a problem is that it's mainly photovoltaic electricity that is exchanged in these communities. So we have the first projects now that try to get wind power plants into in energy communities. We have the first one that have biomass plants in their communities. So this is what we also want to push. But of course, if you want to do so, you also need big communities, because when you compare the energy photovoltaic plant produces to the electricity that the wind power plant produces, there is a big difference in the quantity of electricity you have to exchange in this community. So this is the main obstacle here to make this happen. And what really is our biggest problem at the moment are the grid operators. So a lot of energy communities are not able, or only with a lot of effort, able to bill their members, because the data availability is not really good, and the grid operators are the ones that are in charge of matching the electricity production and electricity consumption in the communities. So you can say who sourced how much energy from the energy community. So this is a big problem at the moment, where we don't really get forward, because the grid operators are quite powerful, and we don't have a lot of levers there to make them act faster when it comes to their problems with data exchange. So this is maybe our biggest problem at the moment. And here we can see the really dynamic development of energy communities operating in Austria. So in December 2021, we had only 5 that were operating, and then July last year we already had nearly 50, but now we are at 400, which makes us really happy, because we have a really dynamic a really big dynamic now that there are coming more and more energy communities. As you can see, we estimate that around 500 are currently in establishment. So our goal to reach 1,000 maybe will not be a problem until end of 2024. But still, the problem maybe will be to have a lot of members in all these energy communities. Yeah. So this is the good part at the end. And the next slide, you have the contacts again. The 2 heads. The one is the Coordination Office for Energy Communities in Austria, based in Vienna, and my agency that is based in Lower Austria. Of course, you're invited to contact us, to contact both of them, and we're happy to get in contact. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for your great presentation. Congratulations for the work. I didn't know that this coordination office is so recent as well. Maybe I could take one question from the audience in between before we move to the next, or a comment from the audience. I have like a comment in the chat that EC is a common abbreviation for European Commission, but maybe you can find better trademark that also reflects that it's about renewable energy communities. So yes, this is an important part. So we are talking about renewable energy communities all the time when we're talking about it here. Yes, Christian's question I could maybe take a little later, because that could be for everyone. But Martin, any question for Daniel?
Yes, actually, sitting in the neighborhood, I have the special question with regards the energy poverty and what actually the active energy communities can do. But I don't know if one can answer that, but I'm looking for good examples on that to learn from. I have not seen many. Maybe I can call you. It's easier, but maybe it's interesting also for the others, because there is a formalized procedure. There is also these very small initiatives we have here, and then yeah, but actually there are other mechanisms here there across Europe how to meet the energy poverty. But and I wonder what could be the role of energy communities with regards to that.
We have there is not a lot of projects already doing this, but we have some municipalities that want to form energy communities, or already formed energy communities, that just have a tariff model where the ones that need it get really cheap energy from the energy community, and other members of the communities maybe pay a little bit more for their electricity to balance this again. So, but we're also searching for good pilot projects when it comes to this one. But I think we will have maybe 2 or 3 of them in the next year. I'm pretty sure.
I can also talk about one of our example from an ICLEI member city, Larissa in Greece. They have set up an energy community that involves the municipal social enterprise. So it's a municipal actor that deals with social benefits and deals with people who are in vulnerable situations. So they are the central point that people go to for any housing benefit advice, food support, and so on. And they are an official member of the when setting up this energy community. And this has managed to also connect to the people who are in need for cheaper energy. And from knowledge point of view, we also realize that trust is a big issue on who communicates with people. And this was a solution that we find very innovative. In the Community Energy Academy.eu, we have like the self-learning material, and this is one of the cases we're highlighting, but you can write me if you want more information on that.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
also,
thank you.
ICLEI in Belgium is a good example, and I'm going to send you a link to another. I mean, there's an increasing number of projects now focusing on energy poverty. So I sent you the one on Power Up, and here's another. This is another project which is quite interesting as well. But yeah, it is a huge lack. There's a lack of them, and there's a lack of the major issues around the financing as well.
Mm. We also have maybe one more thing. In Lower Austria at the moment, there is a big boom in building big I'm missing Freiflächen big PV systems on the green. Sorry, I'm missing the word. And there we try to establish that the operators of the PV plants are providing cheap energy to the people in the community to get the permission to build the plant. So this is like a...
Thank you. So you can share the links in the chat, and we need to move on to Johanna's question. This is a topic that I would love to talk about more, but yes, thank you for your question. We'll take more then in the end. So Johanna, the stage is yours.
Thank you. So yes, I will talk to you about the energy community tool that we are building in the EC Square project. And yes, you can already move to the next slide. And first, I will start with a little bit on the tool development process that we're following in the project. We have a combination of both research and co-creation workshops. We have 2 series of co-creation workshops in 4 different regions, which involve practice partners in Italy, Spain, Poland, and the Netherlands. And in the very beginning, we started with desk research on already available online tools that help energy communities. And then we had the first co-creation workshop, which was for prototyping tools, covering needs for energy citizenship and energy communities. And right now we are starting to empirically test a tool, and we will then next month start the second round of co-creation workshops for exchange on founding energy communities and for pathways to bring the tool to the regions. Next slide. And the findings of the first co-creation workshops, well, we found that there were always 2 very common themes that we found in all of the different regions and in all of the co-creation workshops, that were, first of all, a need for comprehensible information, and second of all, opportunities to network. Yes, and people always mention that they need access to easily understandable information, for example, like guides for aspiring practitioners to, for example, founders of new energy communities or interested parties wishing to join in energy communities, or guides for founders of energy communities that help them through the founding process and help them with the necessary technical and grid-related problems, and show them the steps necessary, and also give them model contracts to set up an energy community. And they would also like to have tools that allow practitioners to operate an energy community without much effort. And also, people ask for opportunities to network, to help them to connect with like-minded individuals, to invite new practice partners, or to find neighboring energy communities to join, or also to create a base of citizen knowledge and to discuss different topics within each other. Yes, and then we went back to our desk research and looked what was already available, and we then found the best practice example that was already first introduced in the last presentation. That was the website by the Austrian Coordination Office for Energy Communities, which already integrated a lot of the features that people were asking for. And you can go to the next slide. Here is just the starting page, and you can continue. And like it was already introduced before, this website, among other things, includes general information on energy communities, a step-by-step guide to setting up an energy community, model contracts, a comprehensive FAQ, and a list of service providers. But what for us was most important was that the website puts an emphasis on highlighting the energy community's benefits for interested parties, and it is in this way making it easy for people to get into the topic, and they introduce technical and legal know-how step by step in an easy to understand language, and they use both text and video format, which is always really nice for people if they don't want to read as much. Yes. Next one. And based on this website, we now want to make a prototype that can be applicable to different regions also. And we want to make a website providing a thorough overview of this website. And this template will include all of the necessary information, but not but more on a overall level. So we will not have like the specific Austrian information in this template, but more what needs to be in there for each region to have a comprehensive website like this. And this template will aim to provide a starting point for developing similar web pages, or to update the layout and content of existing web pages, so it can serve either as a setup guide or as a toolbox to draw in new input and ideas from. Yes, thank you. This is it for now.
Thank you, Johanna, for presenting our template. So basically, the idea is to have this simple template that is based on the Austrian model that has like all the key information we know is would be crucial for this kind of one-stop shop. And then next step for Easy Square is basically to push this to national governments or other actors that would be in the position to provide this one-stop shop information and reliable information. Yes, thank you, Johanna. We can maybe take the audience questions at this point. If you have any questions for Ian, Daniel, Johanna, you can raise your hand and open your mic. Let's see if there's anything in the chat. Yes, so there was the question actually earlier on from Christian Retama. Could speakers perhaps elaborate a bit on how digital innovation tools can support the operation of energy community projects? Ian, Daniel, Johanna, like you can just open your mic.
Okay, I can maybe say a few things about this one. What we see now in Lower Austria is a lot of energy communities are trying to implement demand-side management in their energy communities, but there is the technical problem that the smart meters that the energy communities use to match the consumption and the production are not really capable of cannot be used for demand side management, because it's only 15 minutes values, and it's only available like 2 or 3 days into the past, so you don't have real-time data. But what they do now is that they have a dongle that reads out the smart meter in real time. So you can use the real-time data from the smart meter in online platforms to, I don't know, tell your members to switch on their heating system or charge their electrical cars or something like this. So this is something that will be used pretty soon and is already in test phase in a few energy communities in Austria. But it's a lot of effort because you need a dongle and you have to install it and everything like this. So this is maybe the obstacle when it comes to this one.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm going to come and be a little bit more controversial, if that's fine. So yeah, it's the digital aspect. Yeah, it's very important, but it reminds me of when all smart came into the cities like 5-10 years ago. So there's a lot of private companies out there pushing their applications, and of course there's a lot of, let's say, there's a lot of invested money in, because they're very professional, and let's say the community energy field is more based on voluntary people. Their business models are really based on the fact that they're voluntary, right? So they're not making a lot of money. They're also competing with a lot of companies that are making a lot of money. And so I know that ResCop are working on making sure that you've got tools that are open source to ensure that there's not an over-reliability on these private companies providing access. And let's face it, a lot of the energy communities are being run by retired people who are not really at ease with the high level technology bit. I'm not saying that definitely technology has got a huge role to play, but let's not forget the human aspect, making sure that it's these people working together. That's super important. And I would like to see more examples of people working on tools that are adapted to these people that are struggling with the technology aspects and making them accessible. I don't know what, Daniel, you feel about that.
I can totally relate to that. Yeah, I'm with, because there is these small energy communities that are really based on voluntary people, and there we have to have an eye on what is happening when it comes to this technology use. But still, we see that especially the municipalities, they have a big interest in stuff like this because they have big like pumps or something like this for sewage water, for drinking water, that they can really manage to maximize the use of renewable energy in their community. So for these examples, this is a really good approach. I'm with you that we should not commercialize energy communities too much. That's maybe a big problem that we are also facing a little bit in Austria, because there is more and more service providers getting to the market that really want to make big money. And in our opinion, this is not the approach of energy communities.
Thank you,
So
Daniel. Daniel and Ian, very important perspective. Thank you, Christian, for the question. I want to say that in our advices as well, we say that there's a lot of digital tools out there. It should be just evaluated which are the correct ones for your needs, for your target audience, and also have some kind of ecosystem, how they work together. And then lastly, yeah, provide this alternative, also have the in-person contact. Those cannot be completely replaced when we are talking about the accessibility of information. So having like also the human contact points. I know at least like in the city of Antwerp, what is one of our example that they have this service desk, also one-stop shop in person that people can go in to as I think it was called Echo House. And you can also find it in our material. So this also to balance out the digital solutions. I'm seeing also a question in the chat that probably Johanna, you could link to how to frame the co-design workshops in this context. I know that we have like the guidelines or descriptions from EC Squared side, and there must be some other projects who are working on this as well. So you can link. I want to we have a few minutes left, so I want to ask you, all the speakers, a question to summarize this conversation. Because the reason why we're talking about this topic is that making knowledge accessible for people is quite crucial for strengthening people's role in energy transition. And accessibility of knowledge is, however, a broad topic. So for me, it would be interesting to hear, what does accessible knowledge mean for you when working with energy communities? What are the key factors for making energy community knowledge accessible, in your opinion and your experience? Johanna, Daniel, Ian, you can just take your turn.
Yeah, so what we often heard in the co-creation workshops is that for people, it's really important to have all information in one place bundled, so that they don't have to go and look on different websites, and also maybe less reliable information on some websites than on others. Also, it is really important to have easily understandable information. I know that's still a little bit vague and can mean different things, but especially in this topic where often legal information is needed, I think it's really important to have information that can be understood by lay people who are not really involved a lot with other legal issues and don't really have a lot of background knowledge. So yes, making this knowledge available in easy to understand terms that are known to everyone, and yes, just having it all bundled together in one place.
Thank you, Johanna. Daniel, Ian?
Yeah, I can come in. I mean, so language, first of all, adapting, translating. So like one of our issues now is when we started the espresso course, we set it up in English, but we know that when you're dealing with city representatives, not everyone is able to speak English. So then the first thing is to get it to adapted to national languages. Also, I think it was also mentioned, try and mix up the way you communicate. So videos, images, we even use kind of podcasts for people to listen. So it's kind of like listen and watch. And then of course, I mean, there's in the Netherlands, especially like working in Amsterdam, if you want to be, I've been hearing a lot of examples of when you do community meetings and you want to involve, let's say, the non-usual suspects, you really need to adapt to the timing of the people. So this thing about equity, about not saying, making sure that if you organize a meeting at a certain time, that you have childcare, that you have all the things set in place to make sure that not just the usual suspects that are available, the retired people after 5 o'clock are available. So a lot of focus on equity aspects, adapting to languages, but also time available, community, ensure that you have inclusivity, and that's really knowledge in the community of everyone that you would like to involve. So that's it.
I think everything that was said is perfect. Yeah, and what our really hard task is to get people involved that are not male and old males, basically. So I do a lot of cities workshop for cities and information workshops for people, and it's really not a really diverse diverse workshops. So, but we still don't have the clue how we can motivate like marginalized people or some target groups to join energy communities. We really just don't know how. I can say it like this. This is one of the main topics I think we are facing.
Thank you, Ian and Daniel. And yeah, it's good that you also mentioned the motivation part, because this is something we're also trying to understand and tackle in EC Squared. So later on in the year, we have a module about empowerment, and this is focusing on the psychological aspect. So it's not enough that the information is there, that the possibilities are there. We also need to be able to understand what are the reasons that prevent people from joining, feeling. So Johanna knows the best about this topic. Like it's the psychology department that's working on this. So whether it's representation of the board or like what kind of motivations are used in communication, we are still figuring it out in our research, and hopefully we'll also be able to communicate you the results and move forward then in the end of this year. I also want to go back to Ian's comment about the language issue. So we have in the Community Energy Academy self-learning material a checklist for how to communicate energy. And one of the crucial points there is not only language as what language it is in, but yeah, the easy to understand language. It's not a technical, energy communities are not just technical knowledge, it's also social knowledge, and we want to highlight this. Okay. Thank you. Maybe we wrap this up now. Also, we need to move to breakouts. My colleagues are reminding me here because I want to stay in this conversation longer. But you can also, send questions afterwards if you have, if you want to have any more information from the speakers or from us. You have our emails. And then, thank you again, Johanna, Ian, Daniel, for joining us. I recommend everyone to check out the initiatives presented. I will also, as said, I will also share the slides with the participants after the event. And you're also, speakers, you're also welcome to stay if you want to join the audience in the workshop, which we will start now. So we will move on to the interactive part of the session, which is the knowledge sharing.